In this video, we're going to look at the proper nesting of block and inline elements in a web page. Now, where I've started is where you should be starting for pretty much every single web page you make, and I've already opened up my page template and just made a couple quick modifications to it. Now, my basic XHTML1 strict template has the following items. It's got, of course, the doc type definition, and remember, the doc type definition, or DTD, for XHTML 1.0 strict is going to be at the top of every web page you make. Below that, I've got the HTML tag with its appropriate attributes. Then I have a head section. Now my head section, to start off with, is going to have a title. Every page I create is going to have a title, and one of the changes that I made right now is I gave the title of this page something specific to the topic of this page. My head section also contains the meta tag for character encoding. So this is on my template, so every time I start a new page I start with this. And then of course my body section is blank. This is where you're going to be spending most of the time working on your page. If there is nothing in the body of the page, there's nothing to be seen. If you want somebody to see something on a web page, whether it's text or hyperlinks or images or flash animations, then it needs to be in the body of that page. And then of course my closing HTML tag says this is the end of my HTML document. So right now my page is blank. It has a title, but there's nothing visible on the body of the page. To confirm this, let me go ahead and save it again. Now I'm saving this right now to my desktop on a short-term basis. I called it block versus inline.html, and notice that I did not use any spaces in my file name. It's all lowercase letters. To give the impression of a space, I used underscore keys. And I'm saving that to my desktop. Yes, I will replace the one that exists. Now on my browser, I'm going to press Ctrl-O, and I'm going to open up a page on my desktop. So let's see. Block versus inline.html, there it is. Double click, and this is my page. Notice that it's blank. There's nothing in the body section. I do have my title though, block versus inline, up in the title bar of the browser. Okay, so back to the page. I'm going to go ahead and put in some information in the body of my page. There, so I have a headline and a paragraph. My headline will display big and bold at the top of my page, and my paragraph is typical paragraph text. Now since I've made some changes to my page since I've last viewed it on the browser, I'm going to have to hit save again. Of course I can press Ctrl-S to do a quick save, Alt-Tab back over to my browser, and F5 to refresh. Whenever you make changes to your web page, you need to save, go back to your browser, and refresh so that you can see how that's going to look on your browser. So there's my headline and my paragraph. Now the two elements that I've put in my body section are the headline element, headline 1 to be specific, and the paragraph element. Both of these elements, headline 1 and paragraph, are examples of block elements. So there's a quick definition of what a block element is. A block element separates themselves from adjacent content by putting an empty line above and below. On my browser, my headline is on a line by itself. Well, that's not the best way to say it. My headline has a space above and below it, and my paragraph has a space above and below it. Now even if my paragraph was longer, there'd be multiple lines, but there would still be a space above and below it. And I'll do some things in a second to help this stand out a little bit more. So now I have two more block elements. Headline 2 is a block element, and of course I have another example of paragraph, which is a block element. So if I save this and refresh on my browser, I now have 4 different block elements. A headline 1, a headline 2, and a couple of paragraphs. Now to help this stand out a little bit, I'm going to go up and put in some styles. Now you don't have to worry about styles too much right now, but you might as well start to get in the habit, because styles will very soon be part of your web page creating life. Okay, So now I have very obvious borders around my block elements, my headlines and my paragraphs. My headline 1 and 2, they both have a blue border, paragraphs have a red border. Now, what I'd like to point out that these being block elements is you notice how the border goes all the way across the width of the page. So a block element really takes up the entire width of the page, or the width of its available space, and that'll become a little bit more specific as we move on, where you can put blocks inside of other blocks. Now let me enhance one of my paragraphs just by giving it some more text. And to do this, what I will do is I'll simply take some text here, and I'm just going to repeat it a couple times. So I've made this second paragraph a little bit bigger, and there we go. That one block is still bigger. Now the rule I've written here for inline elements is an important one. Inline elements are used to format text and other inline elements that are inside of block elements. But here's the important part. Inline elements must always be contained within a block element. A block element can never be contained within an inline element. So since we have these two broad categories, it's going to be in your best interest to start to find out what are some block elements and what are some inline elements. So far, I have not used any inline elements on my web page. I've only used block elements. I've got several headlines and several paragraphs, and those are probably two of the most common block elements that you'll come across. But you'll be using inline elements just as frequently. Inline elements are generally used to format specific things in a block element, for instance, text. So, if I wanted to format some text inside of this block element, this paragraph, well then I could use an inline element. So I could use the bold tag, an opening bold tag here, and a closing bold tag there. So now this one sentence within my paragraph is now bold. The bold element is a great example of an inline element. Notice that it formats within the line. See that? It's inside the line. Now if it was a block element, like a paragraph, see how that line has now separated itself. Block elements separate themselves from the surrounding content. Inline elements do their magic inside of the line. So bold is an inline element, but there's quite a few inline elements. Now as we get through our course, you're going to find out which are which just by trial and error and just by repetitive use. But for now, let's kind of keep track of some of the most common ones that we'll be using in the first few weeks. The DL element, and DT element, and DD. These aren't used quite as often, but there's a number of situations where they can come in handy. So these are some common block elements. There's others, but these are the ones that you'll be using most frequently. So you'll see these quite a bit. Let me go and save this, show you how it looks on my browser right now. There. I've got my headline 2, and then my unordered list, my bulleted list.